Fashion billionaire stops wife from attacking black seamstress. When he discovers she's a hidden heiress, love changes everything. The sound of fabric scissors cutting through the air was the last thing Nathaniel Blackwell expected to hear when he walked into his Manhattan headquarters at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. But there it was, sharp, violent, unmistakable, followed by a scream that made his blood run cold. "You think you can humiliate me?" A woman's voice shrieked from the design floor. "You think you can seduce him with your pathetic sketches?" Nathaniel dropped his briefcase and ran. The Sterling Couture design studio was supposed to be empty at this hour. The building, a converted warehouse in Manhattan's garment district, housed the empire Nathaniel had built from nothing over 20 years. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering city. Rolls of expensive fabric lined the walls like soldiers. Mannequins stood frozen in various stages of dress, their blank faces now witnesses to something terrible. In the center of the room, under harsh fluorescent lights, stood his fiancée Vanessa Harrington. And she was holding an 8-inch pair of fabric scissors like a weapon. "Vanessa." Nathaniel's voice cracked like thunder. "What the hell are you doing?" Vanessa spun around, her perfectly styled blonde hair disheveled, her cream Chanel blazer askew. Her face was twisted with a rage Nathaniel had never seen before, beautiful features contorted into something ugly and unrecognizable. "Ask her." Vanessa screamed, pointing the scissors at the woman cowering behind a cutting table. "Ask your precious little seamstress what she's been doing." Nathaniel's eyes found her then. She was maybe late 20s, with rich brown skin that seemed to glow even under the harsh lights, natural hair pulled back in an elegant bun, and the most terrified dark eyes he'd ever seen. She wore a simple navy work dress, now torn at the sleeve, and her arms bore fresh defensive wounds, thin red lines where the scissors had already made contact. Fashion sketches were scattered across the floor around her like fallen leaves. Even from this distance, Nathaniel could see they were extraordinary, bold, innovative, museum-quality designs that belonged in a gallery, not a factory floor. "Who are you?" Nathaniel asked quietly, but the woman just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "She's nobody." Vanessa shrieked. "A factory worker who thinks she can compete with me. Who thinks she can steal my designs and my fiancé." Nathaniel's jaw clenched. "Put down the scissors. Now." "Not until she admits what she's doing." Vanessa lunged forward, and the woman screamed, throwing up her arms to protect her face. Nathaniel moved faster than he'd moved in years. He grabbed Vanessa's wrist mid-swing, yanking her back with enough force to send the scissors clattering across the wooden floor. They spun like a deadly toy before sliding under a fabric rack. "Have you lost your mind?" Nathaniel's voice was low and dangerous. "You could have killed her." Vanessa's chest heaved with ragged breaths. "She deserves it. She submitted designs to your company contest under a fake name. She won, Nathaniel. She beat me. A seamstress beat me." Nathaniel's grip on her wrist tightened. "That's what this is about? A design contest. It's about respect." Vanessa screamed, tears of rage streaming down her face. "I'm your fiancé. I'm supposed to be the face of this company, not some nobody from the factory floor." Nathaniel released her wrist with disgust. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of my building. Now. Before I call the police." Vanessa's face went white. "You're choosing her over me?" "I'm choosing not to be engaged to someone capable of attacking another human being with scissors. Get out." For a moment, Vanessa looked like she might argue. Then her expression hardened into something cold and calculating. "You'll regret this, Nathaniel. When you find out who she really is, you'll regret everything." She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the elevator, her heels clicking against the floor like gunshots. The moment the doors closed behind her, the room fell silent except for the woman's quiet sobbing. Nathaniel knelt slowly beside the cutting table. "Hey. It's okay. She's gone now." The woman looked up at him with those terrified eyes, and Nathaniel felt something shift in his chest. Something he hadn't felt since his divorce 2 years ago. Recognition. Connection. Something that felt dangerously close to fate. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Simone. Simone Ellis." Simone. Nathaniel tested the name, liking the way it felt on his tongue. I'm Nathaniel Blackwell. Though I suppose you already knew that. A ghost of a smile crossed her lips despite the tears. Kind of hard not to when your name is on the building. Fair point. Nathaniel reached for his phone. I'm calling an ambulance. Those cuts need to be treated. No. Simone grabbed his arm, and the touch sent electricity through him. Please. No hospitals. No police. I need to go home. Simone, she attacked you with scissors. That's assault. Attempted murder, maybe. I don't want trouble, Simone whispered, pulling her arms close to her body. I just want to keep my job and be left alone. Nathaniel studied her face. There was something in her expression beyond fear. Something that looked like she was hiding from more than just Vanessa's jealousy. At least let me have our company doctor look at you. He's discreet. And then Nathaniel picked up one of the sketches from the floor. It was an evening gown design, elegant and bold, with architectural lines that would make it a showstopper on any runway. Then you're going to tell me where you learned to design like this. Because Vanessa was right about one thing, these are extraordinary. Simone's eyes widened. You're not firing me? Fire you? For having talent. Nathaniel laughed, but there was no humor in it. Simone, I've been in this industry for 20 years. I know genius when I see it. And whatever Vanessa told you, whatever she made you believe, you belong here. Maybe more than any of us. Fresh tears spilled down Simone's cheeks, but these looked different. Not tears of fear, but something else. Relief? Disbelief? Hope. Thank you, she whispered. Nathaniel helped her to her feet, careful not to touch her injured arms. As they walked toward his office, he found himself stealing glances at her profile. She moved with unconscious grace despite the trauma she'd just experienced. And those designs scattered on the floor behind them, they weren't the work of someone who'd learned to sew in a factory. They were the work of someone born to create beauty. Simone, Nathaniel said as they reached his office door. Who are you? Really? She looked at him with those dark, haunted eyes. Someone who made a terrible mistake 5 years ago, she said quietly. And I've been paying for it ever since. Nathaniel didn't know it yet, but in that moment, standing in the doorway of his office at nearly midnight with a mysterious woman whose designs could change his company and whose eyes held secrets that would change his life, he was falling. He was falling for someone he didn't understand, couldn't explain, and shouldn't want. But when had his heart ever listened to logic? Have you ever met someone and known instantly that they would change everything? Comment below, because this is just the beginning, and what Nathaniel discovers about Simone will leave you breathless. Dr. James Patterson arrived at Blackwell Couture within 30 minutes, carrying his medical bag and asking no questions beyond the necessary ones. He'd been treating Nathaniel's employees for years and understood the value of discretion. While he cleaned and bandaged Simone's wounds in the company's medical suite, Nathaniel stood outside the door, turning her employee badge over in his hands. Simone Ellis. Employee number 4847. Hired 5 years ago as a general factory worker. Promoted to seamstress within 6 months. Perfect attendance. 0 complaints. No emergency contacts listed. It was the last detail that bothered him most. Everyone had someone. Family, friends, a partner. But Simone's file was eerily empty, as if she'd materialized out of thin air 5 years ago and deliberately left no trail behind. His phone buzzed. Vanessa. You humiliated me tonight. I won't forget this. Nathaniel deleted the message without responding. Whatever he'd felt for Vanessa, and he was now questioning if he'd ever felt anything real, was gone. Watching her attack another woman with scissors had shown him exactly who she was beneath the designer clothes and charity galas. The medical suite door opened. Dr. Patterson emerged, his expression professional but concerned. She'll be fine physically. The cuts weren't deep, mostly defensive wounds on her forearms. But Mr. Blackwell. He lowered his voice. That woman has been hurt before. Old scars, some surgical. And she's terrified. Not just of what happened tonight, she's afraid of something bigger. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Thank you, James. Send the bill to my personal account. After the doctor left, Nathaniel found Simone sitting on the examination table, her arms wrapped in fresh white bandages. She'd cleaned her face, but her eyes were still red. "How are you feeling?" he asked softly. "Like I shouldn't have come to work tonight." She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Simone, I need to be honest with you. What Vanessa did tonight, that's a crime. You have every right to press charges." "I know." Simone looked down at her bandaged arms. "But I can't. Please don't ask me to explain why. I can't." Nathaniel pulled up a chair and sat facing her, maintaining a respectful distance. "Then explain the designs. Because I've been in fashion my entire adult life, and those sketches didn't come from someone who learned to sew in a factory. They came from someone with formal training. Expensive training." Simone's hands trembled slightly. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Nathaniel's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not trying to hurt you, Simone. But I need to understand who I'm protecting. Because Vanessa's not done. Women like her don't lose gracefully. She's going to come after you again, and I need to know what I'm dealing with." Simone was quiet for a long moment, and Nathaniel could see the internal war playing out across her face. Finally she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "5 years ago, I was someone else. Someone who believed in love and trust and happy endings." She laughed bitterly. "Someone very naive. I made the mistake of trusting the wrong person, and it almost cost me my life. So I disappeared. Changed my name. Started over. And I've been invisible ever since." "Invisible," Nathaniel repeated. "Until you submitted those designs." "I couldn't help myself." For the first time, passion crept into her voice. "Fashion is in my blood. I see fabrics and patterns in my dreams. Not designing felt like not breathing. So I submitted the sketches anonymously, never thinking they'd actually win. Never thinking anyone would care about the work of a seamstress. But they won. And Vanessa found out." Simone nodded. "She's been watching me for weeks. She knew I submitted something. When the contest results were announced today, she put it together. That's why she was waiting for me tonight." Nathaniel leaned forward. "Simone, whoever hurt you 5 years ago, are they still looking for you?" Her silence was answer enough. "That's why you can't press charges," Nathaniel realized. "Because it would expose you. Put your name in the system. Make you findable." "I've worked so hard to disappear," Simone whispered, tears gathering in her eyes again. "If he finds me, if he knows I'm alive." "Who is he?" But Simone just shook her head. "I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't." Nathaniel stood, pacing the small room. Every instinct told him to push, to demand answers, to call the police despite her protests. But the terror in her eyes was real, and whatever she was running from had scared her enough to erase herself from existence for 5 years. "Okay," he said finally. "We'll do this your way. For now. But Simone, I'm not letting Vanessa near you again. And I'm not letting your talent waste away in a factory. Starting tomorrow, you're working in design. Full salary, benefits, your own studio space." Simone's eyes widened. "Mr. Blackwell, I can't." "Nathaniel. Call me Nathaniel. And yes, you can. Because you're brilliant, and hiding that brilliance helps no one. Least of all you. Vanessa will never allow it. Vanessa doesn't work here anymore. Our engagement is over. And even if it wasn't, she doesn't dictate who I hire." Nathaniel met her eyes. "You're safe here, Simone. I promise you that. Whatever you're running from, whoever you're hiding from, they'll have to go through me first." Something flickered across Simone's face. Not just relief or gratitude, but something deeper. Recognition, maybe. As if she was seeing him, really seeing him, for the first time. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked quietly. Nathaniel smiled. "Because 5 years ago, when I was going through my divorce, when I thought I'd lost everything that mattered, a stranger offered me kindness I didn't deserve. They told me that sometimes people need to be invisible for a while. To heal. To remember who they are beneath the wounds." He paused. "You remind me that kindness matters. That talent matters. That people matter, regardless of where they came from or what they're running from." Simone's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Thank you, Nathaniel." The way she said his name sent warmth through his chest. Not the polite, distant Mr. Blackwell of an employee, but something softer. More personal. Dangerous. "Come on," Nathaniel said, breaking the moment before it became something they weren't ready for. "Let me drive you home. And tomorrow, we'll talk about your new position." They rode the elevator down in comfortable silence. But as they stepped onto the street, Nathaniel noticed Simone glancing over her shoulder, scanning the darkness with the wariness of prey. "He's not here," Nathaniel said softly. "Whoever he is, he's not here." "You don't know that." "No. But I'm here. And I won't let anything happen to you." It was a promise Nathaniel had no business making to a woman he'd known for less than 3 hours. A woman whose real name he didn't even know. A woman whose past was clearly dangerous and complicated. But as he watched her climb into his car, saw her injured arms and haunted eyes, Nathaniel knew with absolute certainty that he meant every word. He was going to protect her. Even if it destroyed him. Even if discovering her secrets destroyed them both. Because sometimes fate doesn't ask permission. It just puts someone in your path and dares you to walk away. And Nathaniel Blackwell had never been good at backing down from a dare. Sometimes the people we're meant to protect are the ones protecting secrets that could destroy us both. What would you risk for someone you barely know? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe, because what Nathaniel discovers next will change everything. Derek Thompson had been head of security at Blackwell Couture for 8 years, and in that time, he'd learned to read his boss better than most. So when Nathaniel called him into the office at 7 a.m. the next morning with dark circles under his eyes and 3 empty espresso cups on his desk, Derek knew something serious had happened. "I need you to run a background check," Nathaniel said without preamble. "Complete and total. Every database you can access." Derek pulled out his tablet. Name: Simone Ellis. Employee 4847. "But Derek..." Nathaniel hesitated. "I don't think that's her real name." Derek's eyebrows rose. "You want me to investigate an employee for using a fake identity?" "I want you to find out who she really is. Discreetly. Because someone tried to hurt her badly enough that she felt the need to disappear completely 5 years ago. And I need to know what we're dealing with." "We?" Derek asked carefully. Nathaniel met his eyes. "She's under my protection now. Whatever that means, whoever comes looking, they go through me first." Derek had seen his boss protective before, but this was different. This was personal in a way that made him concerned. "Should I be worried about this woman, boss?" "No," Nathaniel said firmly. "But I think maybe we should be worried for her." Derek spent the morning running searches. Simone Ellis had a social security number, but it had only been active for 5 years. No credit history before that. No social media presence. No college records. No previous employment. No traffic violations. Nothing. It was the cleanest fake identity Derek had ever seen. Professional-level erasure. Which raised one very important question: who had helped her disappear? By noon, Derek had hit a wall. But his police contacts offered one interesting lead. There was a missing persons case from 5 years ago that remained unsolved. A woman who disappeared after a suspicious car accident, presumed dead but body never recovered. The woman's name: Simone Elise Beaumont. Heiress to the Beaumont Textiles fortune. Net worth: $2 billion. Derek stared at the photo on his screen. The woman in the picture was younger, with longer hair and a radiant smile. But the bone structure, the eyes, the graceful way she held herself, it was unmistakable. The seamstress working in their factory was one of the richest women in America. "Jesus," Derek breathed. He printed the file and headed straight to Nathaniel's office. Nathaniel was reviewing Simone's design portfolio, the sketches she'd submitted to the contest, when Derek entered. Each design was more brilliant than the last, showing not just technical skill but genuine artistic vision. "Boss, we need to talk," Derek said, closing the door behind him. Something in his tone made Nathaniel look up. "You found something." "More than something." Derek laid the file on the desk. "Your seamstress isn't just hiding from someone. She's hiding from a $2 billion inheritance, a family searching for her, and an FBI investigation into her disappearance." Nathaniel's world tilted. He opened the file with trembling hands. The photo showed a younger Simone at some society event, wearing a couture gown and genuine happiness. The caption read, "Simone Beaumont at the Metropolitan Museum Gala, 6 months before her disappearance." "Beaumont Textiles," Nathaniel whispered. "One of the oldest fabric manufacturers in America. My God." Derek nodded. According to the FBI file, she was engaged to Richard Castellano, her father's business partner. They were driving to their engagement party when their car went off a cliff in upstate New York. Richard survived with minor injuries. Simone's body was never recovered. Presumed dead. "Except she wasn't dead," Nathaniel said slowly. "She survived and went into hiding. The question is why." Derek pulled up another document. Richard Castellano inherited control of Beaumont Textiles upon Simone's death. Convenient, considering her father, Gerard Beaumont, had planned to give her majority control on her 30th birthday. Nathaniel felt rage building in his chest. He tried to kill her for the company. That's what it looks like. But without a body, without her testimony, there was no case. The accident was ruled exactly that, an accident. Richard got the company, and everyone assumed Simone was dead. Until she showed up at my factory 5 years later, calling herself Simone Ellis. Nathaniel stood, pacing. She wasn't just running from an abusive ex. She was running from a murderer who stood to lose billions if anyone knew she was alive. "And now she's on his radar again," Derek said grimly. "Because Vanessa knows something's off. She might not know exactly who Simone is, but she's suspicious enough to start digging. And if she finds out, she'll tell Richard." Nathaniel's hands clenched into fists. For money, for revenge, for whatever reason, she'll tell him, and he'll come to finish what he started. Derek cleared his throat. "Boss, there's something else." The FBI agent who handled the case, Detective Rachel Morrison, never closed it. She's been investigating Richard for 5 years, convinced he murdered Simone but unable to prove it without a body or witness. If we bring Simone in, if she testifies, we expose her, Nathaniel finished. Put her directly in Richard's crosshairs. Make her a target all over again. But we also give her justice. Her life back. Her inheritance. Her family. Derek paused. Her father never stopped searching. He's offered a $5 million reward for information about her disappearance. Nathaniel sank into his chair, his mind spinning. The woman he'd been falling for, and yes, he could admit it now, he was falling for her, wasn't a seamstress running from a bad relationship. She was an heiress running from a murder attempt. A woman who'd given up billions of dollars and her own identity just to survive. And he'd promised to protect her. "Set up a meeting with Detective Morrison," Nathaniel said finally. "But don't tell her why yet. I need to talk to Simone first. She deserves to know what we found before we make any decisions about going to the FBI." "And Vanessa?" Nathaniel's expression hardened. "Put surveillance on her. I want to know everyone she talks to, everywhere she goes. If she makes contact with Richard Castellano, I want to know immediately." Derek nodded and turned to leave, then paused. "Boss? Be careful. This isn't just about protecting an employee anymore. If Richard finds out she's alive." "He won't." Nathaniel's voice was steel. "Not until we're ready. Not until Simone is safe." After Derek left, Nathaniel sat alone with the file, staring at the photo of young Simone at that gala. She looked so happy, so trusting, so unaware that in 6 months her fiancé would try to murder her. What had it been like, waking up after that crash? Knowing someone you loved had tried to kill you? Making the choice to stay dead, to give up everything, family, fortune, identity, just to stay alive? Nathaniel's phone buzzed. Security notifying him that Simone had arrived for her first day in the design department. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. In a few hours, he'd have to tell her that he knew everything. That her carefully constructed anonymity was shattered. That the past she'd been running from for 5 years had finally caught up. And he'd have to tell her that despite all of it, despite the danger, the lies, the billions of dollars and murder plots, he was falling for her anyway. That he'd been falling since the moment he'd stopped those scissors from scarring her beautiful face. That he'd keep falling, even if it killed them both. Because sometimes love doesn't wait for convenient timing or safe circumstances. Sometimes it just appears in the form of a woman with haunted eyes and brilliant designs, hiding in plain sight. Sometimes it asks you to choose between protecting someone and exposing them. And sometimes, if you're brave enough, you figure out how to do both. When does protection become love? And when does love become the most dangerous thing of all? Share your thoughts below, because Nathaniel's about to make a choice that will change both their lives forever. Vanessa Harrington sat in the back corner of an expensive Soho restaurant, her designer sunglasses still on despite being indoors, nursing her third glass of wine at 2 in the afternoon. Across from her sat a man she'd hoped never to contact again. Richard Castellano looked exactly as the tabloids described him, handsome in a predatory way, with dark hair graying at the temples and cold eyes that calculated the value of everything they touched. He wore a custom suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, and his smile never reached those calculating eyes. "Ms. Harrington," he said smoothly, "your message was intriguing. You said you had information about my late fiancé." Vanessa leaned forward. "What would it be worth to you to know that Simone Beaumont is alive?" Richard's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened around his whiskey glass. "That's impossible. Simone died 5 years ago." "Did she?" Vanessa pulled out her phone, scrolling to the photo she'd secretly taken last night before everything went wrong. It showed Simone at her cutting table, surrounded by her award-winning designs. "This woman works at Blackwell Couture under the name Simone Ellis. But I did some research this morning. The facial recognition software I ran matches her to your dead fiancé with 98.7% certainty." Richard stared at the photo, and for the first time, genuine emotion crossed his face. Rage, barely contained. How long has she been there? 5 years. Working as a seamstress in the factory. Vanessa's smile was bitter. Hiding in plain sight in the fashion industry she supposedly loved. And my idiot ex-fiancé is protecting her. Fired me, broke our engagement, all because I tried to teach her a lesson last night. Lesson? Richard's voice was dangerous. Vanessa waved her hand dismissively. "She submitted designs to our company contest. 1. I confronted her about it. Things got heated. Nathaniel overreacted." Richard's eyes narrowed. "How heated?" "That's not important. What's important is that Simone Beaumont is alive, she's in New York, and she's vulnerable." Vanessa leaned back. "Question is, what's that information worth to you?" Richard pulled out his phone and made a transfer. Vanessa's phone pinged. $500,000 had just appeared in her offshore account. "That's a down payment," Richard said coldly. "You'll get another $500,000 when I confirm she's really Simone. And if you've wasted my time." "I haven't. Trust me, I know rage when I see it. That woman is hiding from something, and based on your reaction, I'd bet everything it's you." Richard stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "I'll be in touch, Ms. Harrington. And a word of advice, forget you ever saw her. Forget this conversation. Forget everything, or you might find yourself in a similar accident to the one Simone survived." He walked out, leaving Vanessa alone with her wine and her blood money. She should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt sick. But she pushed that feeling down, just like she'd been pushing down uncomfortable emotions her entire life, and ordered another drink. 3 hours later, Derek Thompson burst into Nathaniel's office, his face grim. "We have a problem." Vanessa met with Richard Castellano this afternoon. Showed him photos of Simone. He paid her $500,000. Nathaniel's blood turned to ice. "When?" 2 hours ago. "And boss, Richard just booked a flight to New York. Lands tomorrow morning." "Where's Simone?" "Design studio. She doesn't know yet." Nathaniel was already moving, taking the stairs 2 at a time to the top floor where he'd set up Simone's new workspace. He burst through the door to find her at a drafting table, completely absorbed in a new design, pencil flying across paper. She looked up, startled. "Nathaniel? What's wrong?" He closed the door and locked it. "We need to talk. Now." Something in his expression made her set down her pencil. "You found out, didn't you? Who I really am." Simone Elise Beaumont. Heiress to Beaumont Textiles. Supposedly died in a car accident 5 years ago, Except the accident was actually a murder attempt by your fiancé Richard Castellano, who stood to inherit your company if you were dead. Simone's face went white. How did you? I had you investigated. I'm sorry, but after last night, I needed to know who I was protecting. Nathaniel sat beside her. But that's not the urgent problem. The urgent problem is that Vanessa figured out who you are. She sold that information to Richard. He's flying to New York tomorrow. Simone stood abruptly, her chair clattering backward. No. No, no, no. I have to go. I have to disappear again. Simone, stop. Nathaniel grabbed her hands gently. You can't keep running. He'll keep finding you. And this time, he knows you're alive, which makes you an even bigger threat. Then what am I supposed to do? Tears streamed down her face. Let him kill me? Let him finish what he started. No. You let the FBI arrest him. You testify about what he did. You take back your life. Nathaniel squeezed her hands. I've already contacted Detective Rachel Morrison. She's been investigating Richard for 5 years, waiting for proof. You are that proof, Simone. If I testify, I become a target. Not just from Richard, but from everyone who benefited from my death. His business partners, his investors, everyone who's been running Beaumont Textiles in my absence. Which is why the FBI will offer you protective custody. And why I'm hiring the best private security money can buy. Nathaniel pulled her closer. You're not alone anymore, Simone. You have me. You have resources. You have the truth on your side. Simone looked up at him through tears. Why are you doing this? You barely know me. I've done nothing but lie to you since we met. You survived, Nathaniel said fiercely. You gave up billions of dollars, your family, your entire identity, just to stay alive. That's not nothing, Simone. That's everything. That's courage I can't even imagine. He cupped her face gently. And these past 2 days, getting to know you, seeing your designs, hearing your passion for fashion, I haven't felt this alive in years. You make me remember why I fell in love with design in the first place. Why I built this company. Why any of this matters. Nathaniel. I'm falling for you, he interrupted. I know it's insane. I know it's fast and complicated and probably the worst possible timing. But I need you to know that before tomorrow. Before the FBI and the media circus and everything that's about to happen. I'm falling for you, Simone Beaumont, not your money or your name or your inheritance. Just you. Simone's breath caught. For 5 years, she'd been invisible, untouchable, alone. She'd convinced herself that was safer, that isolation was survival. But standing here in Nathaniel's arms, she realized she'd been dying slowly the whole time. Hiding wasn't living. Safety wasn't happiness. I'm falling for you too, she whispered. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But you make me feel seen. Really seen, not as a victim or an heiress or someone to be pitied. You see me. Nathaniel kissed her then, soft and gentle and full of promise. A kiss that tasted like truth and hope and the terrifying beauty of choosing love over safety. When they broke apart, Simone smiled through tears. So what do we do now? Now. Nathaniel grinned. Now we call Detective Morrison. We build an airtight case against Richard. We send Vanessa to prison for attempted murder and conspiracy. And we take back everything that was stolen from you. And after that? After that, Simone Beaumont, we change the fashion industry together. Blackwell and Beaumont. Equals, partners, lovers. He kissed her forehead. We build something beautiful. Simone nodded, feeling stronger than she had in 5 years. Okay. Let's do it. Let's take him down. Outside the window, the New York City skyline glittered with possibilities. Tomorrow, they'd face Richard Castellano and all the dangers that came with exposing the truth. But tonight, for the first time in 5 years, Simone Beaumont stopped running. And she started fighting back. Detective Rachel Morrison of the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit had been chasing Richard Castellano for 5 years. She'd known in her gut that Simone Beaumont's death wasn't an accident, that the convenient inheritance of a billion-dollar company by her fiancé was too perfect to be coincidence. But without a body, without a witness, without proof, she'd had nothing. Until now. She sat across from Simone in a secure FBI conference room in Lower Manhattan, recording equipment humming quietly, and tried to contain her emotions as the woman she presumed dead for half a decade told her story. He planned it for months, Simone said, her voice steady despite the tears. I found bank statements showing he'd been meeting with my father's competitors. Emails discussing how to restructure ownership of Beaumont Textiles. I confronted him the night of the accident. What did he say? Detective Morrison asked gently. That I was too soft, too sentimental. That I'd run the company into the ground with my bleeding heart policies about fair wages and sustainable practices. That someone needed to save Beaumont from me. Simone's hands clenched. Then we got in the car. He was driving. And when we reached that cliff road, he didn't brake. He accelerated. Nathaniel, sitting beside Simone, took her hand. I managed to open my door just before we went over. I fell out, rolled down the embankment. Richard went over the cliff with the car, but there were airbags. He survived. And when I heard him climbing back up, heard him calling my name, looking for me, Simone's voice broke. I knew if he found me, he'd finish the job. So I stayed hidden in the ravine until he left. Then I ran. And you've been running ever since, Detective Morrison said. I had help. A trucker found me, drove me to a women's shelter. They connected me with an organization that helps domestic violence survivors disappear. New identity, new social security number, new life. I've been Simone Ellis for 5 years, working in factories, staying invisible. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Simone, what you're describing is attempted murder and fraud. With your testimony, we can arrest Richard Castellano today. But I need you to understand, going public means your anonymity is gone forever. The media will be relentless. Richard's lawyers will be vicious. And there may be threats against your life. I know, Simone said firmly. But I'm done running. And I want my father to know I'm alive. Detective Morrison smiled. He's going to be overjoyed. He's never stopped searching for you. 2 hours later, Richard Castellano was arrested at his Manhattan hotel. The charges: attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. The arrest was kept quiet. The FBI wanted him in custody before the media circus began. Gerard Beaumont was contacted immediately. And when father and daughter were reunited in that FBI conference room, there wasn't a dry eye in the building. My baby girl, Gerard sobbed, holding Simone like she might disappear again. I thought I'd lost you forever. I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you I was alive. But if Richard knew. I understand. God, Simone, I understand. Gerard pulled back, studying her face. You look so different. Stronger somehow. I am stronger. I had to be. Simone glanced at Nathaniel, standing respectfully near the door. And I had help. Daddy, this is Nathaniel Blackwell. He saved my life. And we. Gerard's eyebrows rose as he looked between them. We. Nathaniel stepped forward, extending his hand. Mr. Beaumont, it's an honor to meet you. Your daughter is one of the most talented designers I've ever encountered. And yes, we're together. Gerard shook his hand, then surprised them both by pulling Nathaniel into a hug. Thank you for protecting her. Thank you for bringing my daughter home. The next few days were chaos. The media exploded with the story, Heiress returns from the dead. Fashion mogul saves missing billionaire. Murder plot exposed. Vanessa Harrington was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. Her $500,000 payment from Richard proved she'd knowingly aided his attempt to locate and harm Simone. She faced 20 years in federal prison. Richard's trial was scheduled for 6 months out, but with Simone's testimony, forensic evidence from the crash site, and financial records proving his motive, prosecutors were confident of conviction. Through it all, Nathaniel never left Simone's side. He attended FBI debriefings with her, held her hand during her father's emotional recovery, shielded her from cameras when the press got too aggressive. And every night, he reminded her that she was safe, she was loved, and she was home. 3 months after Richard's arrest, Nathaniel took Simone to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They stood before a new fashion exhibition, pieces from both Blackwell Couture and Beaumont Textiles, displayed together in a stunning collaboration. "This is what I wanted to show you," Nathaniel said, gesturing to the exhibit. Blackwell and Beaumont. Not separate, not competing. Together. Simone's eyes widened. "Nathaniel, what are you saying?" He turned to face her, taking both her hands. "I'm saying I want to merge our companies. Create something new, something beautiful, something that honors both our legacies. Blackwell Beaumont Fashion House." He paused. "But more than that, I want to merge our lives." Nathaniel dropped to one knee. Simone's hands flew to her mouth. "Simone Elise Beaumont, you walked into my life disguised as someone else, hiding your brilliance, running from a past that tried to destroy you. But I saw you anyway. The real you, passionate, talented, brave beyond measure." He pulled out a ring, a stunning emerald-cut diamond surrounded by smaller stones. "I don't care about your money. I don't care about your name or your inheritance. I care about you. The woman who creates beauty from fabric. The woman who survived the impossible. The woman I fall more in love with every single day." Tears streamed down Simone's face. "Will you marry me? Not as a merger, not as a business arrangement, but as two people who found each other in the darkness and chose love over fear. Will you build a life with me?" Simone dropped to her knees in front of him, cupping his face. "Yes. God, yes. I love you, Nathaniel. You gave me back my life. You gave me back myself. You made me brave enough to stop hiding." He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, right there in the museum, surrounded by the fashion they both loved, creating a future neither had dared imagine. Museum visitors applauded. Cameras flashed. But Nathaniel and Simone only saw each other. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the bravest choices. Sometimes hiding leads to finding exactly what you needed. Have you ever found love in unexpected places? Comment below, and subscribe for the finale, because this story isn't over yet. 1 year later. The wedding took place not in a grand cathedral or expensive venue, but in the Beaumont family estate in Connecticut, where Simone had grown up. The house had been closed since her disappearance, but Gerard had reopened it for this occasion, filling it once again with love and laughter. The ceremony was intimate, just family and close friends. No media, no cameras, no public spectacle. After a year of trials and headlines and invasion of privacy, Simone and Nathaniel wanted this moment to be theirs alone. Simone wore a dress she designed herself, a stunning creation of ivory silk and delicate lace that honored her mother's memory. Her mother had passed when Simone was young. Her father walked her down the garden aisle, tears streaming down his face. Nathaniel stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored tux, and when he saw Simone, his composure crumbled. He wiped tears from his eyes, not caring who saw. "You're so beautiful," he mouthed. Detective Morrison attended, having become a friend during the investigation. Derek Thompson was Nathaniel's best man. And sitting in the front row was Dr. Patterson, the company doctor who treated Simone's wounds that first terrible night. The ceremony was simple and perfect. "I take you as you are," Nathaniel said during his vows, his voice thick with emotion. "Not as an heiress, not as a designer, not as a survivor, though you are all those things. I take you as Simone, the woman who showed me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing love despite it. I promise to see you, every day, exactly as you are, and to love every part of you." Simone's vows were equally moving. "You saved me from more than just Vanessa's scissors. You saved me from invisibility, from fear, from a life spent hiding who I really was. You gave me back my name, my family, my passion for design. But most importantly, you gave me a reason to stop running and start living. I love you, Nathaniel Blackwell, with every piece of my reconstructed heart." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the garden erupted in applause. And when Nathaniel kissed his bride, Simone felt, for the first time in 6 years, completely and utterly safe. 6 months after the wedding, the newly merged Blackwell Beaumont Fashion House hosted its first runway show during New York Fashion Week. The collection was called Resurrection, and it told Simone's story through fabric and design. Darkness giving way to light, hiding transforming into revelation, fear becoming courage. Every piece was a collaboration between Nathaniel and Simone, their creative visions merging into something neither could have created alone. The show was the talk of Fashion Week. Critics called it transformative, brave, and the future of American fashion. But the most important moment came at the end, when Simone and Nathaniel walked the runway together, hand in hand, as models applauded and the audience gave a standing ovation. Backstage afterward, Gerard found them in their dressing room, both still in their elegant show outfits. "I'm so proud of you," he said, hugging his daughter. "Your mother would be too. What you've built here, what you've survived, it's extraordinary." "I couldn't have done it without Nathaniel," Simone said, squeezing her husband's hand. Gerard smiled. "And speaking of building things, I wanted to tell you both that I'm officially retiring. Beaumont Textiles is yours, Simone. All of it. The way it should have been 6 years ago." Simone's eyes widened. "Daddy. You've earned it. You've survived impossible things to claim your inheritance. And I know you and Nathaniel will take Beaumont into the future in ways I never could." Gerard kissed her forehead. "Build something beautiful, sweetheart. The way you always have." After Gerard left, Nathaniel pulled Simone close. "So, Mrs. Blackwell Beaumont, you're now the CEO of a textile empire and co-founder of a fashion house. How does it feel?" Simone laughed, the sound pure joy. "Terrifying. Exhilarating. Perfect." She looked up at him. "But I can't do any of it without you. You're my partner, Nathaniel. In everything." "Partners," he agreed, kissing her softly. "In design, in business, in life." "Speaking of life." Simone's eyes sparkled with a secret. "There's something I need to tell you." Nathaniel's heart skipped. "What?" She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "We're going to need to design a nursery. Because in 7 months, Blackwell Beaumont is getting a very tiny new designer." For a moment, Nathaniel couldn't speak. Then he swept Simone into his arms, spinning her around the dressing room while she laughed. "We're having a baby. We're having a baby." They stood together in that moment, surrounded by the beautiful chaos of Fashion Week, holding each other and imagining a future they'd both almost lost. 3 years later, the Blackwell Beaumont home in Manhattan's Upper West Side was filled with the sound of a toddler's laughter. Eleanor Grace Blackwell Beaumont, aged 2.5, had her mother's dark eyes and her father's stubborn determination. She sat in her playroom, surrounded by fabric swatches and toy sewing machines, already showing signs of inheriting her parents' creative genius. "Ella, baby, dinner time," Simone called from the doorway. "No dinner. Design." Ella insisted, holding up a crude drawing of what might have been a dress. Nathaniel appeared behind his wife, wrapping his arms around her. "She's definitely ours." "God help us," Simone laughed. After getting Ella settled with dinner, they stood together at the window, watching the city lights. "Do you ever think about that night?" Nathaniel asked quietly. "The night I found you with Vanessa?" "Every day," Simone admitted. "Not because it was traumatic, though it was. But because that was the night my life changed. That was the night I stopped being invisible." "Do you miss it? Being anonymous?" "Sometimes. But then I look at Ella, at this life we've built, at the fashion house we created together." Simone turned in his arms. "And I realized that hiding kept me safe, but loving you made me alive. I chose right." Nathaniel kissed her forehead. "We both did." From the dining room, Ella called out, "Mama! Dada! Look!" They returned to find their daughter had somehow gotten marker all over herself, the table, and her drawing, which she proudly presented to them. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Simone said, trying not to laugh. "I made Mama," Ella announced. The drawing was mostly scribbles, but in the center was a figure in what looked like a wedding dress, surrounded by hearts. Nathaniel and Simone exchanged glances, both thinking the same thing. Their daughter understood, even at 2 years old, that love was the most important design of all. 5 years after that night with the scissors, Blackwell Beaumont Fashion House had become one of the most respected names in American fashion. They'd opened design schools for underprivileged students, created sustainable manufacturing processes, and championed diversity in an industry that desperately needed it. Richard Castellano was serving a 25-year sentence in federal prison. Vanessa Harrington was serving 15. Both had become cautionary tales about greed and jealousy. Gerard Beaumont spent his retirement traveling and spoiling his granddaughter, finally at peace knowing his daughter was safe, happy, and thriving. And Simone Elise Beaumont Blackwell stood on the roof of her company's headquarters one evening, watching the sunset paint Manhattan in shades of gold and pink, and thought about the journey that had brought her here. From heiress to invisible seamstress to fashion mogul. From victim to survivor to warrior. From hiding to living to thriving. She'd lost 5 years of her life to fear. But she'd gained a lifetime of love. Nathaniel joined her on the roof, holding 2 glasses of wine. "What are you thinking about?" "Fate," Simone said. "How Vanessa attacking me was the worst and best thing that ever happened. How being found was terrifying but necessary. How sometimes the things we run from are exactly what lead us home." "Do you believe in fate?" Simone took the wine glass and smiled. "I believe in brave choices. I believe in good people who see past disguises. I believe in love that fights for you when you're too tired to fight for yourself." She clinked her glass against his. "And I believe that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with scissors and end with silk." Nathaniel laughed, pulling her close. "That's oddly specific." "That's our story." And it was. Their story, complicated, dangerous, beautiful, and ultimately triumphant. A story of a woman who'd been erased learning to write herself back into existence. Of a man who'd been merely successful learning what it meant to truly live. Of 2 people finding each other in darkness and choosing to build something bright. The sun set over Manhattan. Below them, the city hummed with millions of stories unfolding. But on that rooftop, Nathaniel and Simone had found their ending. Or rather, their beginning. Because the best love stories don't end with happily ever after. They end with, "This is just the start." The end. Thank you for staying with us through this incredible journey from fear to courage, from hiding to freedom, from loneliness to love. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to remember that it's never too late to stop running and start living. Comment below about a time you chose courage over fear, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove love, justice, and bravery always triumph in the end. Remember, you are stronger than you think, braver than you believe, and worthy of a love that sees you exactly as you are.